Okay, so here we are on the new Polestar 2. How quick is it? Let's find out. 3, 2, 1.
But hang on, before we get to that point, let's cover what this car actually is first. If you're unfamiliar with the badge, Polestar started life as the performance arm of Volvo, but it's been turned into an electric-focused brand in its own right, giving us so far the Polestar 1, which is a limited edition, massively expensive plug-in hybrid super coupe. But the car we're driving today is the fully electric Polestar 2, something with much more mass market appeal.
Mainly because it doesn't cost £140,000 like the Polestar 1. Instead, it's £50,000 and is said to offer 292 miles from a full charge. That's a lot of miles. It's still a lot of money, but it does mean that this is the only true direct competitor against the Tesla Model 3.
And while we're on the subject of money, don't forget, go to whatcar.com to save a load of cash off your next new car. In fact, you can save £4,000 off the Volvo XC40 family SUV, which is the car that the Polestar 2 shares its underpinnings with. But you can see it's been sculpted into more of a saloon with a slightly jacked up stance.
Now, it might not have a Volvo badge on the nose, but you'd be pretty confident if you had to guess which manufacturer helped inspire the design of this car.
But there are some unique non-Volvo design features, like these frameless door mirrors and a full-width light bar at the back of the car.
The interior is a bit more of a departure from Volvo's other models, certainly more so than in a Polestar 1, which is essentially a Volvo S90 inside. But here, it does feel different, although you might recognise the steering wheel, the buttons and the stalks from Volvo's other models. But elsewhere, it does have a different feel. So you've got this rising centre console which goes up to this big new 11-inch touchscreen infotainment system. Now, this is something that's been developed with Android, and it basically means that rather than having Volvo's own interface, you have what is essentially Android Auto straight away. So you've got Google Maps, you've got Google Assistant, and look, you can hold onto these icons and move them around on the screen to customize it a little bit. Nice big icons that are easy to hit. Of course, we'd rather have some physical buttons to help use it on the move, but at least these are nicely sized and it's really bright, quick to respond. Another plus is that you have a digital driver display, whereas in the Model 3, you've just got that one massive screen in the middle. So even if you want to see how fast you're going in the Tesla, you've got to take your eyes away from the road and look at the screen in the middle. But here, it's all in front of you, just like in a traditional car. And you've also got the option to change to a few different views, and whichever one you go for, it's nice and easy to see. So that's really good. And the general feel in here is really impressive. It's not the cheapest car in the world, but it does back that up with really good quality inside. Yes, there is a bit of flex on this center console bit here, but otherwise the materials feel good. This wood effect is done nicely. It's got a nice squishy dashboard. There are some cheaper plastics like around the door handle here, but otherwise it's got a really nice feel up front. In the back of the Polestar 2, there's good bits and there's bad bits. The best bit is the legroom, because there's absolutely loads of it. You can see even the tallest of passengers will have plenty of space for their legs. You also get a standard fit panoramic sunroof, which gives the feeling of airiness back here. However, headroom isn't particularly generous. So you can see if you're just under 6 foot, as I am, you can't really sit perfectly straight without feeling a little bit cramped. And there's a fairly harsh angle on the roof lining here, which does cut into the space available. So that's not particularly impressive. Similarly, you've got this really big central hump in the middle of the floor as well. So if you're sat in the middle, you're gonna have to put your legs either side there. So compared to a Model 3, that car offers more of everything really. It has similarly generous legroom, but better headroom, and it's easier to fit 3 people in the back of.
The boot isn't especially generous, but still a decent size for a big shop or family holiday luggage. And there's a bit of storage in the front as well. A Model 3 will fit more in, but one thing the Polestar does have over its Tesla rival is the fact that it's a hatchback rather than a saloon. So it's easier to load some big bulky items into.
So the Polestar 2 is impressive inside, but what are we dealing with on the road? Well, it gets a 78 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery and 2 electric motors, one on the front axle and one on the rear axle. And it produces 402 brake horsepower and 487 pounds-foot of torque. But an important number to throw in here is the weight of this car. It is 2,123 kilograms, which is a lot. It's about 300 kilograms more than a Tesla Model 3 and almost as much as a Range Rover.
Heavy indeed. But the good news is that it's not immediately obvious behind the wheel that the Polestar 2 is a bit of a porker.
Because the acceleration on offer is really impressive. It does that classic electric car thing of as soon as you sniff the accelerator, it absolutely catapults you down the road. Although you can only really disguise the weight in a straight line. When you do meet a corner, there's quite a lot of body lean. You can feel it working hard, trying to shift its weight. And there's plenty of grip, but it just doesn't have that kind of natural feeling of agility that a Tesla Model 3 has. And that's to do with the steering as well, because in the Polestar 2, it's a little bit dead around center. So in the Tesla, every input feels really, really alert, and it gives it that feeling of agility, but you don't really have that in the Polestar 2. There are a few different settings you can have for the steering. You can put it in light, standard, or firm. To be honest, there isn't really a huge difference between standard or firm. It doesn't improve things dramatically. So that isn't necessarily a strength of the car compared to the Model 3. One pedal driving. So that essentially increases the level of regenerative braking to a point where when you lift off the accelerator, you can bring the car to a complete stop. And obviously you might not want to be using that on track, but it means around town, it's a nice relaxing addition to the car, and it means that it's really easy to drive it smoothly, especially at low speeds. But one thing that isn't quite so good is the brake pedal itself. So when you do need to use it, there's quite a bit of dead travel in it. So it doesn't feel particularly natural. Although the one pedal solution is so good that you might actually hardly ever have to use that brake pedal. And you can adjust the setting for the one pedal driving as well. So you can have it on standard, which is where when you lift off, it will eventually slow you down to a complete halt, or you can have it on low or off completely. Similarly, you can adjust creep mode. So when you're on the brakes, if you lift off, with creep mode on, just like in a Model 3, it will help move the car forwards as if you were driving a normal petrol automatic or something.
And while this car hails from Gothenburg, it spent a lot of its time on Yorkshire roads to help tune its ride. The result? Well, it's comfortable for the most part. Speed bumps and general road undulations are absorbed nicely, but things like potholes and expansion joints send a shudder rippling through the car, with lots of suspension noise to go with it. The Model 3 is more controlled and more comfortable overall.
Okay, so here we are on the new Polestar 2. How quick is it? Let's find out. 3, 2, 1. Whoa, it's quick. And there we go, 60 miles an hour. Wow, properly rapid. So a big, heavy car, but it really doesn't feel it in a straight dash. It's super impressive.
0 to 60 miles per hour is dispatched in just 4.5 seconds. Sure, not a match for the ridiculous 3.2 seconds you'd get from a Model 3 Performance, but still enough to embarrass most sports cars. If you're not doing drag races and driving normally, you should be able to cover 292 miles from a full charge. A useful range, although the same WLTP certified figure for the Model 3 long range suggests it will go 50 miles further. And when you need to charge up the Polestar, you'll get a 0 to 80% charge in 40 minutes from a 150 kilowatt charger. But the challenge will be actually finding one of those. From a more commonplace 50 kilowatt charger, 20 to 80% is done in 1 hour. But as far as infrastructure goes, nothing can come close to Tesla's excellent supercharger network. What about pricing?
The Polestar 2 is priced from £49,900 in the UK at launch, and that's significant because it just sneaks in at under £50,000, which means in the UK you get £3,000 off the cost of it from the UK government as part of the plug-in grant. And there are also cheaper versions of this car that will join along its lifetime. So right now, the Tesla Model 3 might have it beaten in the numbers game, but there's still lots to like about the Polestar 2, especially its really, really nice interior and its excellent acceleration.
Priced so closely to a Model 3, it may not be the ultimate winner, but compared to much more expensive cars like the Jaguar I-Pace and the Audi e-tron, the Polestar 2 looks very compelling.
So that was our first taste of the Polestar 2. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like. If you have any thoughts about the car, then leave a comment below. Make sure you're subscribed because we've got loads of new car reviews coming out every single week. And don't forget, if you're in the market for any new car whatsoever, go to whatcar.com and there we can save you thousands of pounds off it.